I got a message that RD, I believe he's Swedish, has returned to my Discord. So kind of happy to hear about that. This is August 1st. And it's come to my conclusion that many of the people that are running the establishment, they are like controlling children. Actually controlling teenagers. And they don't have to answer to you. We've given them the keys to the car. We've given people who act like children, or not we, but for whatever reason, the establishment has given not even the keys to the car, but the keys to the house to people who act like willful teenagers. And yeah, they will, a willful teenager is someone you try to avoid. Sometimes you don't have, you can't help yourself, but yeah. So I'm looking here at Breitbart News. And Willie Nelson performs at a protest at a Democratic Capitol, complaining about, I guess, ID. And this man would not take down a profane anti-communist protester. I might just tweet this person. One of my favorites is a picture of the Korean War. Because America fought, against Marxism, but and they will downplay. The left tends to downplay any sort of Marxist. This being the 2021 images here. It's now kind of separated out and stuff. There we go. I'm just going to just a real quickie. And I probably won't get any retweets. And I think in some ways they Twitter hides my maybe shadow bans me. That's a possibility. People have lost followers and stuff, and again, they're kind of like teenagers. They're not really. You're not dealing with adult men and women, and they're not noble people. They're not honest actors, and that's what you are dealing with now. And anytime you try to rise up and converse with other people, they try to eliminate that. I'm going to shut the window real quick. So yeah, this is August 1st, and this is what we're dealing with. And what I'm dealing with right now personally is my my appetite, my food. Still struggling. A little bit tired. I might eat after this. And they have a vaccination entrance. So they're claiming a third jab. Pfizer Biotechnique data released Wednesday suggestion a third dose of the vaccine strongly boosts protection against the variant. And Joe Biden, we are not seeking to end migration as a part of the fabric of this region, a top Biden official. And abortion industry. What will Nancy Pelosi and Anthony Fauci have to say about Michael Andrew going maskless? Outstanding news for American citizens who love the United States. The DOJ said it recovered ancient it's not even important. Oh, of Hobby Lobby. I don't know what even that is. It's okay. Where is the international outrage and condemnation? Why isn't Joe Biden holding a press conference right this minute? 3,462 Christian Nigerians hacked to death by jihadists. The real solutions don't exist in Washington and never have. Probably true. Leftist Vox has plans for unvaccinated Americans. The Biden White House spirals as mismanagement of the Chinese coronavirus. Okay, as crime surges nationwide, a suspect was charged with murder Friday after allegedly beheading his girlfriend and leaving her body on the road. And General Garland, unlawful for Texas to stop busing for illegal aliens. Mar, we are back to the mask rules that aren't scientific. Bill Maher says that. Bill Maher is still kind of a leftist and a liberal. Seeing if anyone has joined me. Oh, we have JP. Joey, how are you on this first day of August?
Well, the dog days of summer are on their way, and it seems like there's no slowdown in the fake news cycles. So thank you for reading them. Appreciate that. Giving me the updates on variants and infighting between loser politicians, actors, and actresses all. Yeah, everything's good.
Joey will always bring his interesting perspective. And again, the point is on transparency and merit is to have people with different perspectives out there, and you can decide for yourself. We at Transparency and Merit, and there's only two of us so far, we want to treat you as adults that you can decipher information, and we don't think that information to the masses is necessarily dangerous. I mean, for the most part, 99.9% of information is not dangerous. I mean, there may be that 1% if we're fighting a war or something like that where things have to be covered up in secret, but on average, information is not dangerous. Now, ignorance is bliss, but the truth will set you free. And sometimes when you become an adult and see things with an adult mind, a realistic adult mind, and are able to look at yourself as well as others, then the growth will begin. And my growth, I'm still growing even at 51 years of age. I'm always continuing to grow and mature, because I certainly am not perfect. I lose my temper. I get self-righteous, and I can be arrogant and ignorant as well. So that is one of my weaknesses.
We were raised by pre-baby boomer parents, and they were the most, in my view, they were the most brain-boggled, controlled, fear-laden part of society. They were given handed down the most propaganda. They were the ones who bought the first television sets, and so they were, in a sense, the first and probably the most difficult to program. But a lot of that generation, and I hate to say this because there are a lot of very good people out there and smart people out there, but so many of them died broken men and women, and it's kind of sad, but it's for what it's worth. They tried, and their hearts were in the right place. I think they were just given just a whole slew of they are the ones who were on the front lines of the biggest changes to happen to America, and as it changed from the idyllic 1950s into through the decades 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and then 2000s were just an unbelievable kind of dismantling of the family unit and what it meant to be a man and a woman. I think so. Sure, we're it's easy to sit around and look back on it, but it's time to, like you said, it's time to put on our adult pants and use our adult minds and think critically. And I understand I'm on full tilt when it comes to, I call things out because I feel it's, at this point, there's no turning back for me. I've kind of developed this perspective. I've made a lot of conclusions, and I continue to grow, just like you, continuing to learn and learning, especially how to meet those not of like mind, because I know how to meet people of like mind. I think we do okay, but I don't even know. I was never really accepted into certain groups that I wanted to be part of, and fell into other groups that I didn't feel I was, didn't feel like I was in the right place. So I don't know what the formula is. I just know my experience. And if I'm standing with a group of my friends now, the people that I associate with now, for a lot of reasons, those people think I've eaten some funny pills or something, but it's just because I'm calling out what I see to be wrong. I'm not, when people say oh, Joe, there's remedy. No, I'm not looking for the remedy. That's what this crappy medical system claims to do. Why should we seek remedy when we can seek cure? And like you said, the truth will set you free. And the truth is stranger than fiction in a lot of ways. And I think a lot of ideas, concepts, things like biology was, I can't understand it. People that are afraid, so scared of, eek a mouse, right? There's even a band called Eek a Mouse. Just the whole concept of people being afraid of the simplest things of nature. So it's no wonder when I discuss things like biology and how biology has, the understanding of biology, or the lack of understanding of biology, has impacted us so greatly. It's no wonder you say one thing and people are like, "Ooh, eek." Anyways, just a rant.
Well, you bring up a point about People say one thing and they act like it's a mouse, or eek, a mouse, eek, hate speech, eek, racism. One of the reasons I go on the kick that I do on white guilt and on the civil rights, what I consider the civil rights industrial complex, is they've made things very forbidden within the society, and not forbidden that things are forbidden that you can't discuss. And hate speech, there are two things right now: hate speech and conspiracy theories, or what they consider to be conspiracy theories, are the new heresy in this country. And I reject being called a heretic. First of all, I don't have to subscribe to your faith or your doctrine. And whether it's an atheist doctrine, whether it's a religious doctrine, I don't have to subscribe to them as a human being, as a free-thinking, free-living human being. I resist. I resist your indoctrination. I resist your programming. And when I do that, many go to try to punish me. And the powers that be want to punish people who exercise their freedom of speech and their freedom of thought to think differently. And if they vocalize those opinions, they can be very much punished economically. And I speak and I speak against that. That is not a just society. That's not a society, a civilized society that I choose to want to live in. So one of the things I want to do is, I used to try to engage leftists. I don't do that as much anymore. I usually just try to walk on the other side of the road. And if I had to leave, I would leave this state because I don't like them so much. That I find them so distasteful that I don't want to be around them, because they don't want to be around me. They just want to punish me. So why would a logical thinking human being want to be around somebody who wants to punish someone they disagree with? Even if I disagree with you, Joe, on what you say, I don't want to punish you. But the left wants to punish you the left wants to punish people if they have ideas that they disagree with. And I find that really, really bad. And they continue to move the goalposts of punishment. I don't know if you have anything to add on that.
I do. I just don't know exactly where to begin. I sent you a link last night, and I really want to do a show on that story. I was wondering if, well, we'll talk about that afterwards. But there's a couple things I want to do shows on. There's someone named Colonel Edward Mandell House, who he's somebody who helped pick the original charter members for the original Federal Reserve Board in 1913. And he said some very interesting things, but even prior to that, in the late 1800s, that were at the time, they were ignored, they were scoffed at, and when you look back, you see how he was right. And I see this time and time again when I go back. The further back I go, and I use a marker when I'm doing research now. So I try to explore beyond what I would consider the modern edit. The modern edit would be pretty much anything that's come in print or media form since 1933. So as 1933 as a marker and older, if you get your hands on it, there's endless articles, and I'm doing my best to kind of transcribe it and learn them before I present them, but because there's a lot of heavy details there, but it's all come to pass. It's all led up to the point in time where we're at right now. And and these ideas aren't laughed at anymore. They're not scoffed at anymore. There's a lot of people, a lot of scholars, a lot of real researchers, and other who are doing really good work. Another point I wanted to make is, wow, what a short memory people have. It's no surprise or shock to me that the country is in the state it's in right now, and the economy is where it's at, and it's all it's no surprise to me because people have no memory, and there were people as recently as the early 90s, late 80s, well, in the 80s, and then into the early 90s, just pre or at the dawning of or the infancy of the internet era, there were a lot of great researchers at the time were considered conspiracy or fringe nuts at the time, and you could probably only hear them at 2 in the morning wherever you lived. Some of these people were syndicated on AM radio, and wow, what a short memory. It's an amazing thing. A lot of these people have huge bodies of information and work that nobody knows about anymore. It's just there are some there's people reposting and trying to keep some of that stuff alive, but they were telling they were talking about some interesting things. There were a lot of people. Graham, what's his name? Oh, I'm forgetting his name, but he was always kind of thrown in with the UFO kooks, who had written a book. His name will come to me, but anyways, yeah, he wrote a book and was doing the kind of promotion circuit, going to these shows, a lot of these fringe shows, and was talking about a lot of things that were going to happen right at the turn of the century, right in the early 2000s, and he was spot on. He nailed it on the head. There were a lot of guys doing that though, and it's amazing. It's amazing to me. Like, it just it almost got scrubbed because the internet, then the internet comes around, and then it's like this whole new wild west of ideas and thoughts, and where all of that old research just never really it had come and gone, and those people suddenly left the building, and with their bodies of work not being able to be pressed forward, and so we lost a lot. People don't realize it, but we lost a lot when the internet came. Only now, I think, that some of those bodies of work are starting to come back online and into the fray, and in a different light, not so much lone nutter or conspiracy kook hogwash sort of mentality, but more of a maybe we should take a deeper look at this. And that's exciting in a way, that there are still some of these good people out there who are just old enough to have remembered it, or are just researching sleuths who are able to pull together and say, hey, wait, we're living this now. These guys were talking about it in the 80s and the 90s. They were warning us. We didn't know. So, there's that.
Well, Joe, that was a lot. You just said, you did bring up the 1950s, and for a long time, and still today, America, look, both the left and the right lie. The 1950s in America has been nostalgia. There's a lot of nostalgia about the 1950s, it being innocent, and it being a time of great prosperity. And it was a time when we did pull out of the Depression. But that doesn't mean that it was, Leave It to Beaver are happy days for a lot of Americans. A lot of Americans were absolutely destitutely impoverished, and there was a lot of Americans that had to do like really hardcore manual labor, and there were recessions in the 1950s, and there were hard times in the 1950s, and a lot of Americans don't realize, how difficult the times were. I mean, we were out of the Depression, but certainly for a lot of Americans, poverty was far worse. If you lived in Virginia, uh, some places in New York, if you worked on the docks, it was harsh and hard times. My father actually worked as a migrant worker after he flunked out of college. Nowhere to go, and there weren't public services and stuff. And he was there to I believe he was picking peaches with a lot of other whites and blacks in the Central Valley, and yeah, people had really had to do some really destituted, harsh jobs that paid limited, and you weren't given like that much option. The one thing that you did have is if you worked hard, you did have the option, particularly in California, to buy a house, which you don't anymore. I mean, particularly in West Los Angeles, the average American cannot afford to buy a home, and that's a tragedy. West Los Angeles is not what it used to be, and it's a lot of wealthy elites who think they know what's right for everybody. And there are reasons why home ownership is not what it is, and I think sooner or later we're just looking at things and just
I just want to add something
yeah,
really quick
let me
because
let me finish on this.
yeah.
We've accepted things. This is just the norm now. So can't afford a home. Pretty soon it's going to be a car. You're not going to be the average American won't be able to afford a car. The things that you were able to afford sooner or later are going to be completely unobtainable. And I think that is what's happening. Joe, I give you the word.
I just want to say, in addition, because I think a lot of the problems that we find are related to property and ownership of that property. People have no idea. And it's our experience here in sunny California, what's going on. But there are pockets within the country, cities who didn't have the high profile of Southern California or California, where if you think the inflation or the property values that have gone up are insidious and heinous here in California, or impossible to overcome here, you should see what's going on in some of these little pockets. It's 4 or 5 times the expansion and valuation that we've seen here. It's just they don't have the publicity and as quite as much sunshine as we do here in Southern California, but places I've been, and people where I know people are that want to own homes or own property, and it's not just a California thing. I think that was just my point. You should just see what's happened in some of these cities. It dwarfs what's gone on here. But that's our experience for sure. What's political Woodstock on to here?
Well, let's see. Political Woodstock. Let's see. Let's see. Which one of the thing that she said here? And then here we go. Let me see here. This is another thing that she said. But you know what? We allow freedom of speech. There are people who want me to shut up as well. So, but I mean, that's the case now. And again, with property, will the future be with property? Next will be cars, and next will be eating 3 meals a day. Well, I don't think it's healthy to eat 3 meals a day, but eating a meal a day will be a luxury. May sooner or later be a luxury. If inflation goes the way it is, eating in restaurants may be a luxury. All these things. Who knows what's going to happen, Joey, if society breaks down and collapses? We don't know each other anymore. We don't talk to each other anymore. Now, Angela says the future is water, and water is life. Water brings, without water, I mean, water, then food, because water makes food, and helps, whether it's livestock or whether it's the plants that grow. So water is definitely a future substance. But yeah, there's a lot out there, and a lot about the standard of living that has been lowered for Americans of today. We have technology that's great. We have communication, which should be great, but we can't really. We're forbidden to really communicate with one another because hate speech and conspiracy. It's kind of absurd. Anyway, Joe, I want to kind of end it because I do have to get myself to work. Is there anything to add, to say before I end the show, Joe? Anything you want to add?
Oh, I have a lot to say on the ideas of water, but we'll save that for another show. Yeah, we're good.
Well, I always said Joe should always he has his origin beliefs, and I wish he would begin to do some of his own shows just like I do, is consistently, even if it's
I have a few ready. I'm doing some pre-recordings of some ideas, and we'll get those going for sure.
It's always kind of an interesting thing that the things that he puts together, whether I agree with him or not, may be a different story. But again, we're living in a time where this should be the information age, but it's really the age of censorship and punishment. And that has been brought on by social media. Social media seems to have created a lot of subversion. And I don't know if there's going to be any punishment for the people that have done this kind of thing and that have created the riots and the hysteria on certain things. I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, this has been Brian with Transparency and Merit. Like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Thank you for listening. Oh, and also visit our website, transparencyandmerit.com.